Entertainment Soldier here, and I'm back to talk about Star Wars Andor Season 1, Episode 7, and my thoughts on this episode. Um, the episode's boring, but I don't think it's terrible. Now, the reason that it's boring is we seem to be concentrating on a lot of filler stuff, like stuff we really don't need to concentrate on. I do think the writers of this show want to make sure they don't make the same mistakes as previous Star Wars projects. They don't want to piss off the fans, and I respect them for that because I do think this show is written for Star Wars fans, and like credit to the writers for doing that. The problem is if you're not a dedicated Star Wars fan, a lot of scenes, especially Imperial scenes, are going to go right over your head because they brought back a character from the Clone Wars and they never explained who this guy was. And if you don't know Clone Wars, you're not going to understand who this guy is, who was introduced in the Imperial part of this episode. So again, I respect them for, writing for Star Wars fans, but this show needs to be able to be enjoyed by everybody. But listen, the episode's not completely bad. I think I love the Imperial scenes. Again, the Imperial scenes are always great because we've never seen this side of the Empire before. We've never really had we've never had a show just on the Empire because everything that gets written about the Empire is always from the Rebels' perspective. And I like seeing the Empire's perspective because, again, that would be an interesting thing to, see because we never see that ever in Star Wars. But with Andor, I think a lot of his stuff, like the ending scenes for Andor, they were interesting because of another returning character, or at least another returning robot who came back. So yeah, Andor, he needs a lot more work. He's not terrible in this episode, but most of his scenes you could have cut out. I mean, it's again, this show is not the worst. That's what I'm just trying to get across. It's not the worst thing to come out of Lucasfilm, because that title is pretty much going to go to The Last Jedi or Kenobi, because those two things were absolute garbage and just were lore-destroying projects. But Andor, there's something there with Andor. There's a way this show can be a success. Unfortunately, the writers are trying so hard to, satisfy Star Wars fans and making sure they don't fuck with the lore. Again, credit to them. It's just they need to be so much more entertaining with it. They need to. You don't have to explain every fucking thing, but you do need to explain some things a bit more than others. But I'll explain that more in the spoiler part. For me, it's an okay episode. Just needed to move faster for me. And again, I need Andor to be in the rebellion now. I kind of sick and tired of him being on the outskirts of the rebellion. He obviously doesn't like the Empire. We know he's going to be in the rebellion soon. Just get it over with. Put him in the rebellion and let's start fighting the fucking Empire. Oh, and another thing. Khan, you've really got to do something with him now. We're at episode 7 and you've done nothing with Khan. Khan is a great character to fight Andor. It's there. You can see that he hates Andor. You can see Andor's not really fond of him. I mean, why are we not doing this? Why are we wasting time with Khan doing, boring stuff? I don't get it. That's my problem with what they're doing with Khan is I'm not sure they know what they're doing with him. I think they're just keep him around to eventually have him join the Empire. Because I think we all know that's where he's going. So, again, it's just they really need to move the show faster. We need to get to where these characters are eventually going to be in and just have them fight each other. Stop with this whole, we need to explain every part of their journey into their, different roles. We just get them there, for goodness sake. So if I'm going to grade it out of 10, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I think that's as good as I can do. I still think the episode's okay. It's just pacing issues. It's taking a long time to get characters into their, positions. Again, I respect them for, trying to explain everything. It's just, you've really got to hurry up now because it's taking a bit too long. So 5 out of 10 for me. Yeah, it's an okay episode. So let's get into spoilers now. If you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. So the episode starts off with Khan getting ready for a job interview at some office. Now the problem for me about Khan, I've already explained in non-spoilers, is I don't know what they're doing with Khan. I get where he's going to end up, but why is it taking so long to get there? Because his entire arc in this episode is basically go to an office, get a job, and turns out he's not satisfied with having that job. That's all Khan really does in this episode. So he goes for an interview, he talks to the head of the office, he looks at his CV, sees what happened on Felix, or Phalanx or whatever, and, Khan explains what he wants to do with his life and says, listen, something bad happened to me on Phalanx, I fucked up, I want to get that expunged from my record, but I need someone to believe in me so I can do that. So the guy takes pity on him and gives him a job, gives him a desk, and now Khan's in charge of some oil refinery, marketing stuff. Yeah, and that's all he does in this episode. Again, could be a really interesting character if they put him in the right place and stop with this crap with him being on the sidelines. I don't get why they're doing this, but I don't know, maybe in time they'll show us something. So the next scene is Mon Mothma heading off to speak to Levin or whatever the hell his name is, about the attack on the Imperial credits, but whatever the fuck it was. And so she pretty much demands to know why he did it, and was it him who ordered the attack? And he says yes, he did order it, and they need to do this because they need to get more money for the rebellion. And Mon Mothma is kind of annoyed because that's not what she signed up for. What she signed up for was, to get money to people. Like, they don't really make it clear with Mon Mothma what she's there for, because it seems like Levin's the one who wants to take action, whereas Mon Mothma wants to keep trying to do this in the government. She wants to be a rebel in the government, which is never going to work because Palpatine has control of the Senate. So what does she expect to happen there? So Levin pretty much tells her, listen, this is how things are going to be. You signed up to join the rebellion. We're going to fight the Empire. And the way you fight the Empire is you have to kill people, basically. And Mon Mothma pretty much shakes her head and just realises, yeah, maybe I've signed up for something I shouldn't have, but it's too late to back out now. And so she just heads off back to her place to get ready for her party with all the senators and Imperials. Again, love to know what's happening in the Senate. I would love to see, I want to see more of the Senate. I want to see more of what happens there. I mean, this is the first time we're actually seeing the Imperial Senate, and we've been there for 2 minutes? Again, a lot of interesting stuff we could be shown, but we're not being shown. And it's annoying at this point. We then go to ISB, and we meet a returning character, Admiral Yularen. Now, they don't tell you this is Admiral Yularen because I don't know. I honestly don't know. Nobody calls his name. Nobody introduces him. He just starts talking and telling ISB they're now the head of the spear that's going to fight the rebels. And so he gives a massive speech about how the Empire is going to crack down on the rebellion, how they're going to, find more parts of the galaxy, how they're going to raise taxes, pretty much playing into the rebels' hand, because this attack was to pretty much make the Empire overreact to the rebellion's attack. And I will give the series credit for that, because, again, the attack didn't make sense to me, but now it kind of does, because it's now, proven what the rebels knew was going to happen, which was the Empire was going to overreact, and this could piss more people off to the point where they might want to start a rebellion. So, credit to them for that. But I do have a problem with this scene. It's just the fact they never tell us that it's Admiral Yularen, even though we know it is who it is. They need to explain it for the people who've probably not watched the Clone Wars, or the people who probably have watched the Clone Wars but have not connected the two people. You can't just put this character in there and expect everybody to know who he is. Again, not asking for them to make a massive, explanation for him. Just say his name once and maybe people will just pick up on that. That's all I'm asking for. So, Yularen tells them all the plan, basically, crack down on the rebels and punish anybody who helps them, basically. So, we then see Deidre, she goes around and does her secret, intelligence operation, which is, looking at every sector's, criminal data, trying to see is there a pattern to it. She then goes down to the records office and she sees an Imperial there who's not properly dressed, calls him out for it, and pretty much tells them that she wants all the sector's Imperial criminal records so that she can, find out what's going on. And the Imperial agrees and gives her all the information she needs, and yeah, that's what happens there. We then go see Andor, who goes back to Phalex to see his mum. And when he sees his mum tells him about what's happened on the planet, the fact that the corporation security has gone and the Imperials have pretty much taken over, and the fact the whole planet is pissed at Andor now because he's brought the Empire back. So there's a lot of people out there that want Andor's head. But Andor tells his mum that he has a plan, he has enough money to get them off the planet and go somewhere hot, and he wants to take her off the planet with him. And the mother does not look happy about that, but kind of just agrees because she doesn't want to offend her son. So Andor goes then to see... Oh, wait, his mum also tells Andor who betrayed him and who sold him out to the Empire. And we all know it's that boyfriend of Bex. So Andor goes, visits Bex, and pretty much, tries to find out if she's okay. And, Bex is not happy to see him. She's absolutely angry about, losing her boyfriend and the fact that Empire's come to the planet. And Andor is kind of just like, it's not my fault your boyfriend called the Empire on me. But she kind of thinks maybe she did do something wrong. Maybe she, shouldn't have been so close to Andor and he wouldn't have reigned the Empire. But I'm going to be on Andor's side here. It's like, it wasn't his fault your boyfriend got the wrong impression, love. I mean, he didn't need to call the Empire. He could have just talked to Andor. Or you, to be honest. So, again, your boyfriend was just a cunt. Get over it. So, Andor then goes back. When he's going back to see his mum, he then bumps into some Imperials, so he hides from them. Then we get a flashback to the time when the Empire first came to Phalex, where we see how his father died, his adopted father, and apparently his father got hanged because he tried to stop a riot. Don't know how that works. I mean, yeah, the Empire's evil, but would they just hang a man for just trying to stop a riot happening? Not sure. I would have liked a little bit more of a reason for that, instead of just having some clones pointing their rifles at the guy, and then next scene we see they've hung him. So again, a little bit more detail there. If you're going to add detail, that would have been the time to add more detail. So Andor makes it back home, and his mum pretty much tells him she's not leaving because she's now going to join the rebellion. Not sure how that's going to work, but she's dedicated now. She thinks she's too old to start a new life. She now wants to, fight the Empire because of what they did to her husband, to Andor's father. How we also find out she never likes to walk in a particular area of that city because that's where they hung him, and she always avoids it. And when she heard about the raid on the Empire, she fucking loved it, even to the point where she put on her best suit to go for a walk celebrating it. So yeah, that was a kind of good scene to find. That was kind of good thing to find out. But she tells Andor, listen, you're young, you have your whole life ahead of you, go out there, enjoy your life, and maybe you should give up on finding your sister because she's probably dead. Which is the last thing she says to him. So Andor leaves the planet and heads somewhere warm. We then go back to the Empire, or ISB, where there's a meeting going on with the commander guy. And he's pretty much, calling out and not calling out. He's chewing out some other lieutenant in the ISB about his reports being late still, and how he wants him to sort it out. And he also then calls on Blevin, because he can see Blevin has something he wants to say. And Blevin calls out Deirdre and says that Deirdre is messing with his sector. She keeps asking for information that she has no right to, and how he thinks she has gone rogue. But the commander pretty much points out that Deirdre is the only one here actually doing anything, and how she's pretty much the only one focused on trying to fight the rebels. Because then when Deirdre defends herself, she pretty much says it's obvious that the rebels wanted to start an uprising. We've got to change our rules to fight them. And she kind of is a bit confused with why nobody else is seeing what the rebels are doing, basically. They're trying to fight the rebels on their rules, but she knows the rebels are not going to fight on those rules. They need to adapt to survive, basically. So the commander agrees with her and says she can now take over the sector where Phalanx is and lead the investigation into the attack there. And basically she's going to lead the investigation into trying to find Andor. And that leaves Blevin pretty pissed off. And the commander then warns Deirdre to watch her back, because there's going to be people probably trying to stab her in the back now, because she's shown she's not a team player. And yeah. We then go to Andor, who's on a beach planet. We see him walking around for a little bit. Then we see some people running who have staged a protest against the Empire. We see shore troopers, which I was surprised to see. So shore troopers chasing these runners down. Andor tries to avoid this situation because, again, he is a wanted man. But then gets caught by one lieutenant shore trooper who holds him for no reason. And then we get the best scene, I think, of the episode, where we see a K2SO. Now, people are going to say, this is obviously not K2SO, but, I mean, listen, the shore trooper told the droid to leave Andor hanging or something. It was to do with hanging, to look after him, whilst he goes after the other, protesters. And the droid says, leave him hanging, and just grabs Andor by the throat and pushes him up. This has got to be K2SO. I mean, I don't know, maybe this is just something the droids, this model does, like it takes things literal and makes a joke or something. But it does sound like we're going to finally get K2SO, because that's what this show really does actually need. It needs K2SO, Andor needs K2SO to make it entertaining. Again, having a comic relief character in this show would be a massive plus. I really want to see K2SO. He was the best character in Rogue One. Let's hope that's going to happen. So, Andor gets arrested, and apparently the judge there, she's kind of not really bothered anymore. She just wants to get on with her job. She's not really giving a shit about people's innocence. And she's pretty much just bored of her job. So she hears what Andor's been charged with, protesting the Empire. The original charge was, apparently causing a disturbance and, being anti-imperial. So she gives Andor 3 years in prison. Not 3 years, 6 years in prison for his crimes, when it was originally 6 months. But because of the Empire's, crackdown, they're raising all of the sentences because of the rebellion. So yeah, it's a stupid idea. It's going to go into the hands of the rebels, but you can see why the Empire would do this. And so yeah, Andor is going to go to prison for 6 years for nothing, because Andor didn't do shit in this scene. He was just walking and just got caught by a shore trooper, which is ridiculous. Maybe you can have some political message in there, but I kind of see it as kind of a funny scene that's just gone way out of proportion. I did forget about the scene with Mon Mothma. I'll go through that scene quickly because Andor ends after he gets sentenced. But the Mon Mothma scene is basically, she has a party in a house with her husband. She talks to some random senator who's a friend of hers from when they were children. And we find out this is the senator she wants to bring into the rebellion, who's a banker, so he could bring more money to the rebels. And it turns out that he's sympathetic to the rebel cause, and he is like the Empire. So she sends him a message, basically, through an innocent conversation, that she wants him to join the rebellion. And he pretty much says he'll think about it. And that's how the scene ends, with Mon Mothma. And and the episode ends with Andor being sent to prison. And yeah, and that's the episode. I think it's an okay episode. I would have liked a little bit more of the Empire, a bit more explanation of characters like Admiral Yularen. Again, I think it's an okay episode. I think it's got potential. It just needs to, hurry the fuck up. And again, getting K2SO back into this show is 100% the best idea. Andor needs K2SO. This show needs him. We need a bit of comic relief in this show. And 5 out of 10. Okay episode. Just needs to hurry up. And that's the end of my review. If you like this review, give it a like. And if you dislike this review, give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do think about subscribing. Entertainment World Soldier. Bye.